Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Fallout New Vegas. So in the first episode, we managed to make it no further than to just walk out the front door of the starting location. And yeah, it takes that long with a long cutscene and just going through the initial setup of the RPG stats. It's a great example really of just something that does not work, I think, in modern games. Even RPG games. I think you have to kind of slow feed the systems more and just get into the action way quicker. Compared to Fallout 3, which this is just going to be a direct comparison to Fallout 3, we would see Megaton City, or an equivalent to Megaton City, as far as something to go see and visit, whereas all I'm seeing is this here, and we're supposed to be going this way to this area before we leave this city. Although this little city doesn't really have any barriers or borders around it that would make it any different from the open world. So I thought these might be just decorative flowers, but no, they are actual flowers. Weirdly, since this is supposed to be in Nevada, if you see any plant life at all, that's probably slightly more plant life than actually would exist there. There is, of course, all kinds of technology and fiction that could play a role. Interesting, I imagine that was scripted so that there would be a raven there, and we saw that there was a prompt for a raven. We can see there's a robot over there. We could go talk to him, I guess, if we wanted to, since he's coming this way. Now, theoretically, you're supposed to kind of have your memory back at this point, so you're not just supposed to be engaging with this world.
Howdy, partner. Might I say you're looking
Now, take note of this image here. You're not really supposed to be engaging with this world as if it's all new to you, where in the other Fallout games where you're a vault person, the surface is supposed to be completely new. So, the Fallout TV series basically has a live-action actor representing the image of this cartoon character that you're seeing here. It's referencing itself, although that's really easy to do if you make a TV series based on games that have already been made. This guy digged me out of the grave, and so let's start with that.
Don't mention it. I'm always ready to lend a helping hand to a stranger in need.
And this is a different kind of robot than what we've seen in Fallout 3.
I was out for a stroll that night when I heard the commotion up the old bone orchard. Saw what looked like a bunch of bad eggs, so I laid low. Once they'd run off, I dug you up to see if you were still kicking. Turns out you were, so I hauled you off to the dock right quick.
So, by asking that question, which can be asked a second time, we got a marker on our map, and that's not a terrible system, really. It's probably something that should happen more, where in just natural interactions and conversations you get map markers that point you in other directions. Think of, in contrast, something like Zelda Breath of the Wild, which I played most of that there weren't really specific spots in Zelda Breath of the Wild that would pop up on your map without you just dropping a marker there yourself. And there wasn't really that many people that you could talk to in Breath of the Wild that would have told you about locations of interest. In fact, Breath of the Wild is a fairly empty world, even for a Zelda game, as far as who you're talking to and interacting with.
Can't say that I'm familiar with the rascals. Some of the fine folks in town might be able to help you out with that. I moseyed into town, 10, 15 years ago. Before that, I can't quite seem to recall. Odd. Anyway, it's a right peaceful town, and I reckon it's as fine a place to settle as any.
I imagine these robots are, for the most part, from 100 years of the past.
I'm a Securitron. Robco Security Model 2060B. If you ever see any of my brothers, tell them Victor says howdy. Happy trails!
Okay, so we have a conversation there. Didn't lead to a whole new event, but it did lead to a location on the map. And there's two ways to fill in the map, certainly. One would be to walk to places. One would be to
Hey there.
now this guy doesn't have anything.
If you're looking for supplies, Chet over at the general store can help you out.
So I guess we're learning that if it's not a named character, we don't really need to interact with them. Banana, yucca, maize. I definitely could see how, if you were going to make a game in the Las Vegas area, in a desert, thirst would logically make sense, but video game wise it makes no sense to have characters have to monitor their... This isn't one of those two-headed cows, this is a mole rat with horns. Interesting. What is this called? A young bighorner. So that's different. And it's irritating even in the case of I'm gonna try to fight the urge to pick up garbage until I at least know where I'm gonna take it to sell it. Probably even after that point it would make sense to wait until you have a general idea of a home, if you're going to get a home to drop items off on. Let's go inside and see what the storefront has to offer. I don't think we really have that many caps. Now they still seem to be following the let's see, can we buy this or do we have to steal it? Because I think that magazine is probably valuable. Scrap metal may be valuable too.
Howdy.
It was in Fallout 3, maybe not so much now. And there is always that possibility that this entire village may just get killed. And then you could just get things and steal things without any negative karma. Which does bring about a interesting question. To me, as far as I can tell, there is no karma system being pointed out yet in this game. So you may be able to just do whatever you want to do with no danger of being labeled a bad guy.
Hey there.
Everything looks fairly nice. More modern games would just have almost the exact same room. Procedurally generate a room, put a bunch of junk on the walls as far as things that you might even asset flip from an asset store. Things that you don't even have to 3D model yourself. And then you just lock them down. They wouldn't be interactable and they wouldn't inherently move around. You might give them some physics, so if you bumped into a chest it might fall over, but that's about it. And particularly for Bethesda games, I think it makes a lot of sense, instead of adding to a save file, making your save file and save state larger every time something gets bumped and moved even slightly from its default location. It makes a lot more sense to just, once you leave a room, everything gets put back to where it was, unless you stole it. And you can just chalk that up to somebody cleaning up after the mess. Got some music playing on the radio there.
You must be the one Doc Mitchell was patching up. The way I heard it, I didn't think you'd be walking out of that office. I've got plenty of supplies for sale. Even got some weapon mods and special ammo. Well worth the caps if you ask me. If you're hurting for caps, I've also got boxes of surplus ammo in the miscellaneous section. They're not great, but you get what you pay for.
There was another point that needed to be mentioned too. That random character we tried to talk to was Asian, and when we set up our character, Asian was one of the selection. That doesn't make any sense in this world, because it then has to imply that the Asian people in the Fallout world are some kind of non-Chinese Asian, because Fallout in the United States was at war with China and had just complete xenophobic racism against China, to the extreme that I'm sure they would also be anti-Japanese and anti-Korean and anti-Taiwanian, Vietnamese, whatever Asian country there. So there really shouldn't be any Asians in this world at all, unless there is going to be a backstory that explains that somehow that sentimentality has gone away in the New Vegas area, and somehow Asians have been accepted and integrated in this area. But there was an entire storylines in Fallout 3 highlighting that there was that anti-Asian sentiment, and that there was basically no Asians in all of the Fallout 3 area.
Can do.
So the storefront looks here about the same, except for this. Cards. That probably means something. I only have 18 caps, so it'd be kind of crazy to buy a 4 of Diamonds Gamora, but I do wonder if there isn't going to be a quest to buy every single card from a 52 card pack. You can see how having too many items immediately makes the storefront just unwieldy, and it would be a lot nicer if there was more of a limitation. Another system here that would help is if they kind of broke down the drugs to just stim packs instead of having several other drug related boosts and bumps there. So if we want to buy Salesman Weekly, which would give us barter plus 10, we would have to, which we do want to do that, we would have to have some caps.
It's all about quantity over quality. Trouble is, you'll be cleaning and fixing your gun a lot more than usual when you use those kind of bullets. Weapon mods are things like silencers, scopes, bigger magazines. Special ammo includes things like armor-piercing bullets, which don't hurt the target as much, but let you punch through armor easier. There's also hollow point bullets, which have the opposite effect. You can kill unarmored targets easier, but they don't do shit against armor.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like they're going to go with more of a mode, more of a way of gameplay in which you'll have less variety of guns and more modification of guns in this game. That's probably the right way to go. There's almost always going to be a struggle of balancing that.
The leader was a New Vegas type. Typical city boy. He had a bunch of Great Khans with him, probably hired guns. The Great Khans normally stay in their own territory way up northwest, on account of them being enemies with the NCR.
The bigger question, I guess, would be, are we going to find a bunch of guns with modifications on them, or are we going to find just a bunch of basic guns or parts for guns and have to modify one gun we start with?
Twice. Both times I drank a lot of liquor and lost most of my caps at the card tables. In that order, now that I think about it. If you ever get to New Vegas, be sure to visit Gomorrah. It's the best casino in the city. You won't regret it. Word of advice, behave. Between the NCR military police and Mr. House's robots, you don't want to be causing trouble on the strip.
So we can just ask everybody everything.
Mr. House has got his own casino, Lucky 38, but nobody goes in or out except his robots. The other casinos follow Mr. House's rules, so I guess that makes him the leader of New Vegas. As far as I know, nobody's ever laid eyes on the guy. I think that robot who pulled you out of the dirt belongs to Mr. House. If Mr. House is looking after you, it's got to be a good thing, right? They're tough sons of bitches. Mean, but not crazy. They'll leave you alone unless you got something they want. The Great Khans deal in illegal chems. There's a good chance that most chems you come across were made by Great Khans.
Now, it's funny to say illegal chems when there's really not even a government. Here we have a Mr. Handy robot poster. And I imagine we could just walk back here and see. And they're not going to yell at me for just going behind the counter. Which is nice. Certainly a lot of games would. Magazines are pretty important, so I would see an argument for that. Here we have a reloading bench. What can we even do with it? We can break down bullets. And our repair abilities will let us take components of bullets to make bullets. Interesting. This was not in Fallout 3. And that's going to somewhat overly complicate playing Fallout. I think something like that may be in Fallout 4. This was in Fallout 3 to make stim packs and craft things. It is somewhat questionable why you need 2 benches, but I imagine there will be some dungeon areas where that makes some sense. Prospector Saloon, we can go in the side door, or we can try to go in the front door. Let's talk to Easy Pete here.
Howdy. What can Easy Pete do for you? The one in the fancy suit seemed to be calling the shots. That's as much as I know. Other folks in town might know more. Word of advice,
this guy's beard is way too clean for this environment.
The man's got cold eyes like a snake. Can't be trusted, I'd say. Was a prospector until I decided to settle here to get away from the NCR. Now we'll just take it easy and help out with the Brahmin and Bighorners.
Prospector for what?
Nah. Means I poke through old buildings looking for working tech and such. Some folks just call it salvaging, but never liked the term. Way I see it, salvage means it's broken, near worthless. Me, I look for the good stuff. Guns, chems, spare parts. Good money in it. Nope. Had a pretty good claim once, way out east by the river, but got run off by raiders. Eventually got too old to keep going out.
So you think that might be a bit of a hint, but it's not giving me a map location.
Don't get me wrong. The NCR's got a lot of decent folk in it. It's just that they make you part of them whether you like it or not. Towns like Good Springs and Prim don't stay independent for long. Not if you've got something the NCR wants. Still, the NCR keeps the Legion away.
So they're talking a lot about the NCR and the Legion, and I imagine we'll eventually hear about some form of the Brotherhood of Steel. If it's like Fallout 3, the Brotherhood of Steel could easily not show up in your gameplay until fairly late in the experience. The Legion, I assume, is the cons.
They're slavers, led by a guy named Caesar, or Caesar. Not sure how you're supposed to say it. A couple of years ago, they tried to take over Hoover Dam, but the NCR beat them back. The NCR didn't or couldn't finish the job, though. The Legion's got its strength back and is getting ready for another round at the dam. My money's still on the NCR winning, but you never know. We've been hearing stories about legionaries on the Nevada side of the river, so keep a gun handy. You don't want to get caught by them. The dam powers a lot of New Vegas, and then there's all that clean water lying in Lake Mead, too. Anybody who owns the dam owns the territory.
So, once again, this game is going to be really slow before we actually go out and start shooting something.
Meat and hide, mostly. Can't put a pack on them. They just lay down until you take it off. Can find a bunch of wild ones high up in the hills, but gotta be careful around them. They can put up a decent fight if cornered. The machine? Harmless, no matter what Trudy says. She thinks it's hiding something, but I think it's just a broken down relic with no place to be.
I imagine the machine might be spying, whether it knows it is or not.
Some of the abandoned places around here, like the schoolhouse. Critters move in there sometimes.
So I imagine we are going to go to the schoolhouse fairly quickly. And here we have motorcycles. Are these radioactive motorcycles in the sense that they run on nuclear power? We'll have to shoot one at some point to find out. It's funny that a neon sign would actually work hundreds of years in the future. Almost certainly wouldn't. The glass alone would probably go thin and let the noble gases out. Unless somebody new made it. So do we go through this door? Nope. I guess we go through this door.
Cheyenne, stay. Don't worry, she won't bite unless I tell her to.
So, I imagine this is going to be our first real quest giver. Doc Martin said you could teach me how to survive in the desert. Need to get to Prim. Can you suggest a route? I'm a little short on caps. I don't suppose there's any work available. What do you do around here? Why am I reading this all out loud?
Yeah, I guess there's a thing or two I could show you. Sounds like you need all the help you can get after what they done to you. Meet me outside, behind the saloon.
Okay. So, we'll start the quest there, and we will see that there's a bar here. And these buildings seem to be fairly big for what could otherwise have just been a very, very small building. Fallout 3 had some fairly small buildings. Just tight and compacted for no reason.
Now, see the sarsaparilla bottles on the fence there? Take this and try to hit a couple of them.
Okay. So, right trigger.
Everything all right? Well, let's just finish this.
Okay. So we've got this. And so it's just an iron sight. And perhaps at 1080p. The resolutions may be a little too high. In fairness, I am also looking at the game from I'm looking at the monitor from like 8 feet away, so
That's the right idea. Look down the sight.
yeah. I guess the move here is probably to aim somewhat lower.
Try crouching down and staying still. It'll help your aim.
Okay. Yeah. Let's wobble there, but still you really need to aim
Nice shot.
fairly low on the bottle.
Well, that's a start. But I don't reckon you came to me to learn to fight sarsaparilla bottles. Tell you what, I gotta go chase geckos away from our water supply anyway. Darn critters are attracted to it. Why don't you come along? Follow me. It's just down to the southeast a short ways.
Now, the problem here that I am concerned about, let's see, is A, I don't know some buttons here, so trying to figure out what the reload button would be. Maybe I can only have 5 bullets in the gun at a time. Because we know there's a level cap in this game, there is a perfect way to play, even if that means the perfect way to play is not a way in which you actually get everything, every skill, every perk to 100%. And that means that there are a very large number of imperfect ways to play that could be somewhat disappointing. As we follow the dog and the lady here, who very roughly have leading follower programming, pathfinding programmed, you can see that this is a fairly old game that, as such, it doesn't have
we got some geckos to clear out.
as
Bunch of little
smooth of
monsters
an
is what they are.
animation
Seems like Doc
as
Mitchell
the new
treats more
game
gecko
would
bites
have.
than anything else. Let's see if we can get a little closer.
The
If
dog,
we move
in
quietly, we
particular,
can get the jump on them. More likely to
walking.
hit something vital that way.
yeah, has less of an animation. Wouldn't say the animation is bad, I would just say there's not a lot of it,
you're
not a
on.
lot of variety.
Go give him hell.
Okay. I'm supposed to be killing geckos, I don't see them. And I don't know for certain if a gecko is a...
Oh, that's it.
So we're not supposed to know about VATS yet. We were supposed to just be firing normally. But yeah, I imagine almost every fight I do will be VATS enabled. And that really was the way to play. We'll take that. We could drink water if we wanted to, but without playing in hardcore mode, kind of doesn't matter. I have no idea where the other gecko went, but I guess I can follow the radar and see it's somewhere over here. Let's see if we can find the gecko and shoot it without using VATS this time. I guess the other gecko just despawned. Where did she go? She must have killed the other gecko. For me.
See? You're getting the hang of it. There's 2 more wells that still need clearing. You want, you can come along. It'd be worth a few caps to me.
Sure.
Shouldn't take more than a couple minutes, especially with 2 of us. Come with me.
Now, normally you have a companion following you behind you. I think this tutorial is perhaps a bit of an experiment in the opposite of that. I may get this to be my companion, one of my first companion.
Come on.
You can see how these guys are fairly fast, and my action points are not high enough to count for that. X is reload, and this gun only does have 5 bullets. Which way am I supposed to be going? I think she just straight up left me. So,
Holy moly. If you hadn't come here like you done, I'd be a goner for sure.
we just
I came up
saved
here
her.
to draw water, but here, you should have what I got. You look thirsty.
So finally we have a reputation element here. You've established a reputation with a group of people in the wasteland. Whether the reputation is good or bad, you're finally somebody. So there is a reputation system with several different reputations that can be made. It looks like about 10 of them. We are now accepted. And I'm too much of a goody two-shoes in video games, at least, to ever really want to play as the bad guy. I just don't feel like they ever make the game particularly that fun if you play as the bad guy either. They just don't think of it that way. If they are going to do something like that, what is on this dog's neck? Is that supposed to be some kind of... I have no idea what that is. It's supposed to be just floating there. It's his eyes. Yeah, his eyeballs. So we've seen our first glitch here. The eyeballs are rotated in a completely wrong orientation and sticking out of his head. Floating.
Now that was some good work. Even got a little exciting there at the end. Here's a little spending money for the trouble. One more thing I wanted to show you.
50
Thought I might
bottle
teach you about
caps.
living off the land and making useful things for yourself. Interested? Alright then. We'll need a couple ingredients to get started. Gonna want some xander root and a brock flower. Let me think now. I know I've seen brock flowers growing up at the graveyard, and I seem to remember there being xander root over by the schoolhouse. Bring those on back to me, and we'll get cooking.
Okay. I don't know where she's going, though. Seems to me like she's wandering in a direction that is completely opposite of where... Yep. Cemetery is here. Good Springs is here. Good Springs source is here. So we have one way this way and one way this way to go. And she's just wandering in the desert, which I guess may just be a thing that happens. It may be a case that as things get close, you just have campfires that companions are going to stay at. So she's just going to stand at the campfire. Alright. I've got it. Got the idea of what's going on there. We still don't have a location that we could call our own, a home. But if we're accepted with Good Springs, I think there's a decent chance we will eventually get a building that we can call home. We kind of need that because we're gonna want to fairly quickly want to dump off items, and if we tried to just do that in I thought I could jump. Oh yeah, I can. It's the Y button. If we try to just dump items in a house that's not our own, I think we're gonna get penalized, or items will disappear, or we'll get robbed. It would make a lot of sense if something like that happened. Inherently, I do have to kind of question. Yeah, any of these curves could also lead to like a cave that could be full of really high level enemies. So I don't want to wander too far off the path either. We don't want the equivalent of being attacked by a dragon at level 1. And these destroyed buildings basically aren't going to have anything in them, I imagine. Okay. So this is Victor standing guard to Victor's shack. Well, let's see what's inside Victor's shack. I don't know why he would have a shack in at all. Doesn't even seem like he could go in. Seems like there wouldn't be any moral problem with taking the ammunition from him, or scrap metal from him. But let's not do that yet, because we don't know if there's any real value in having any of those things. Are these plants that are fruit bearing? I do kind of just question it as far as setting a game in Nevada, Las Vegas area. Yes, it does have that appeal of being Las Vegas and all of that, and the flash and glamour around that, but there really isn't a lot of life around Las Vegas. It is all much more fiction. Yeah. it might be very wise to turn off the cinematic kill cam pretty quickly here too. Are we going to be able to actually get into school? But yeah, just for time's sake, the cinematic kill cam possibly activating every time may be too much. And we never saw any of those mantises in Fallout 3, so we've got new enemy types. I can appreciate that. Here, a kind of jangling sound effect. Could the enemies be on the roof? These guys are Where's my health at? Did the game save? You know what? Maybe I should just be wildly firing. Yeah, my health is not actually in a bad position. Now, whenever we get into games like this, and there's one game that has actually done this, and I really would like to see all games adopt it as a concept. I'd like to be able to hold an item pickup button and just pick up all items in an area. That way you're not having to wander around areas wasting a bunch of time searching if they're all empty. So these guys don't hurt you really, but I guess the question will come down to whether the mantises even have anything of value on them, or if their forelegs are fairly worthless, and if they aren't just something like frogs. They're coming out of the ground. In these little holes, and definitely feels like we're just gonna take everything until I kind of become overburdened. Okay, we have a lock safe, easy, and an activate terminal, easy. This would require science 25. This requires lockpick 25, which means we are already too low. So we need to put some effort into getting science up. And I think science is better to go for. Start with because science will also deal with robots. Obviously, we've seen that there will be a decent number of robots in this game. You would almost want there to be a lot more randomization in each game of a Fallout, each run of a Fallout, so like sometimes you would just never see robots and sometimes you'd see a ton of them, or just a lot more variation in the Fallout games themselves. Okay, I think Programmer's Digest might be a usable item. Science plus 10. Yeah. We read that. Did I drop it? Or did I increase my science? It feels like that should have said something. That did increase my science. So we'll have the hacking minigame. Guess the password. Now I guess guessing the password here is not too different from Wordle, a game that came out much later, and how you would solve it, which, in fairness, this is probably word games that have existed for hundreds of years. Let's see, we have 4 tries to guess correctly. Right. How do you know how to hack? Who knows? How is it that all of these things are super easy to hack? Who knows? Okay. So what you want is something that shares a decent amount of other words. So if I took like leaving here and it told me 3 matched, then it denying also would be a possibility, although, or fencing. So let's just start with leaving. And our luck helps us, and so we got an exact match and 30 XP because of that. It may very well be the case that leaving was not actually the password before I selected it, and my luck stat just helped me there. Whenever you see these computers next to a safe, it often is just your second option as far as how you're going to open the safe. And now I have just received quite a lot of extra stuff. My weight is 139 out of 200. We're looking for a plant, remember, in this area. And that may have been the jalapeno we already collected. So, coming in here very possibly just was a case of getting that safe open and that book, which it's definitely worth doing that. Oh, Programmer's Digest was a temporary buff. Interesting. I thought it was a comic that would have been permanent. puts a different spin on that. Let's see. Quests. Find Brock Flower and Xander route. Local map. Okay. So we're looking for a Brock Flower. You don't know what a Brock Flower looks like. I do hear this kind of jingling sound effect, and I don't know if that's the music or if maybe that's some kind of audio clue. Does seem like you could really only get up this far. And then there are just going to be walls that block your leaving the area completely. What would a Brock Flower look like? The kind of assumption here is that it would... I don't think you're supposed to just hit things or shoot things. We saw a jalapeno here, and that seems like such a specialized placement. And this may very well be just a case where I need to expand my area of search, because they may say around the school but really mean in the general vicinity of the school. But across the road may still be close enough. There's a barrel cactus, so at least we know what that is. You'd think everything that would be bright and colorful would be an item you could pick up, but there's quite a few plants here that are not harvestable, at least not at the moment. I don't know if sunset sarsaparilla bottles are going to mean anything. I wonder if they are going to be the Nuka-Cola comparison. Definitely feels like they are trying, Obsidian is trying to just establish an almost completely different game set in the same environment loosely, but trying to go and do its own thing. I think most fans would say they succeeded at that, and as such you have a different feeling experience. Well, here's what maize looks like, aka corn. This may be a case where I just need to go back to the school and turn the brightness up. Suffice it to say, it was dark in there. And if there's a secret rock, like in Fallout 3, I'm not just gonna luck into stumbling upon it, more than likely. Yeah, brightness-wise, indoors, this is probably the right level of brightness. I wonder, but for gameplay reasons, one of two things needs to happen. Either I need to turn off the lights in my room, and see if that helps. Let's try that first. Only a little. A mantis orthacea. I'd assume that that's supposed to be like a egg pod. If there was a flower in here. Oh, that's a bobby pin. That's another thing that was a problem. There's another Programmer's Digest. I think that probably spawned in. Can't lockpick something that's already open. Yep. That was a major problem in Fallout 3 is bobby pins were in quite a few places, and yet looking at the screen from 8 feet away, I never would see them. Right, let's play with the visual settings here. Display brightness. That was 2. Let's see what it looks like there. It still feels reasonable. It does feel like I can see things a little bit better. So let's take this to the next step and see what would happen if we went 2 more. That's probably too much. Nah, that's reasonable too. Now, like, that makes it easier to see, but obviously that's not the intent. The intent is this is supposed to be an unlit, dim, dark area with just this glowing to be your location to draw your attention. With the brightness turned up this much, you barely even notice that location. That being said, in the long run, it's going to be a much better experience. Salesman Weekly. Interesting. I don't know if these books are just spawning or if I'm just overlooking them. In the long run, though, it will be better. For sure, to have the brightness this high. Right now, at nighttime, having the brightness up doesn't feel terrible. We'll have to wait until it becomes daytime again to see if that is just completely overly blown out. Coyote tobacco. I shouldn't actually have to be struggling this much. The indicator should be pointing me directly where to go. Yeah, the indicator tells me that should be somewhere over here, unless it is here. I guess I have to keep my eyes on. Oh, well, I don't know how you would have seen that. It really doesn't stand out there. So that's what we were going for this whole time. It was right there in front. Doesn't matter. If we can go and interact with the storefront shopkeeper, now might be the time to do it. I'm not sure what I really want to buy from him as much as I may just want to sell from him. Now I do like that the game isn't just flipping out when I walk into an area with a gun. This is a little bit blown out once you start seeing actual lighting sources. And yeah. I think you can just talk to the guy.
Howdy.
And he'll wake up. Right. So, items. Let's see. Programmer's Digest. Salesman Weekly. Barter plus 10. So we probably shouldn't do any of that now if Salesman Weekly is just a temporary boost and not a permanent boost. And we now know that that is a Salesman Weekly.
You looking to buy some supplies?
Yeah.
Can do.
So I should just wait and get my speech up higher later. There's a ton of stuff here. We could limit ourselves down to some other things and go to a category. Let's see. We could go to miscellaneous here and sell things. But I don't think there's any reason to do any of that.
Take it easy now.
On second thought. Okay. Which one is the run button? That would be my next question. Is there a run button? But honestly, I guess a run button also has a dumb move if they added one, because that would just push people to not investigate areas, which in fairness I'm not fully doing a great job of investigating every single building. And every single mailbox. And one of the things about Fallout is definitely the idea of getting distracted and doing every single side quest you can do. It's slow starting. They've just kind of put you in this somewhat safe location where you're not having raiders attacking you and shoot at you. So yeah, it doesn't look like you're gonna get Nuka-Cola, and it looks like there will be a quest to get into the gas station at some point. It requires a key, and so that's probably a big storyline quest. I think that is probably one thing that did fail on New Vegas, if we can say anything failed on New Vegas, is people are not making their own cosplays of Sunset Sarsaparillas or uniquely New Vegas characters. They still are very much more making Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 cosplays and Nuka-Colas. Yeah. The whole nuclear aspect of the Fallout universe is, I think, going to be handled kind of weirdly in this story, since it does seem like no nukes fell anywhere, and so the amount of radiation seems like it could be fairly low in this game, and the amount of potential super mutants and mutated characters could be fairly low. Giant mantises hundreds of years in the future could be mostly natural evolution instead of radio bomb influenced mutations, which of course that's all fiction too, and it's not even really how the Fallout TV series explains how you get these weird creatures. The Fallout TV series basically says that one of the vaults did it as experiments, or did some of the creatures. I'm working on some kind of side quest of being a bug stomper. And I think I may have been stung by that scorpion. See if we can see our stats. Rads are low. Yeah. I was poisoned by the scorpion, so my perception's gone down. And that visual effect is definitely worse than anything else. Am I supposed to shoot birds out of the sky? That would be unique. It's not something you really do in Fallout 3. There's no telling what's back here, so if this was like humans, I probably should swap guns. So these are like bloat flies or something. Yep. They're literally called bloat flies. Body. Head. Go for the thing with the biggest chance of being hit, I guess. Yeah. I really don't have a lot of bullets anyway, so shooting things from a distance seems like a mistake. Where'd that bloatfly go as far as its body? Does it just disappear? No. Just kind of rolls that around. %, chance of hitting these guys. And if you aim at something iron sights and you have it fully lined up, that really doesn't mean anything. It's still running the Dungeons and Dragons perception checks and dice rolls and percentages in the background. So you are better off really just using VATS. Except for VATS is slow. You really can't deny that. Found the limited edition Mojave landmark snow globe. These rare pre-war artifacts are widely considered to be useless baublers, but its rumor has it some collectors will pay dearly for them. Interesting. So there is a goal here. I guess we're not trying to shoot ravens, and here we have where we started in the cutscene of them shooting us. So at least we get to revisit that fairly quickly, and it's just a matter of figuring out where the plant is. Seems to imply that the plant is right in front of us. Here it is. Got the Brock flower. Is there a way to climb up to this tower? So this tower looked like something to visit. Interesting. So I walked a little too far out of the tutorial area. So you visit the tower to see that location, and that's your final goal. And one would assume that there's more to it, and that it is a much more difficult journey than that, than just walking directly. I think it has a lot more to do with money, if I was to guess. I'd probably have picked that up. I mean, it's kind of hard not to just pick up a few details about any game that's popular enough. But yeah, if I was to guess, you cannot walk up to the gates of New Vegas and enter without paying some massive input entrance fee of maybe 10,000 caps or something like that. Something fairly high. Don't have a lot more bullets for this gun. And so I'm gonna fairly quickly need to learn some more tutorial stuff. One would assume on the second gameplay, these little triangles send you to the side quests, a lot of which will probably be DLC side quests if I follow them, or at least points of interest that somebody told me about. I'm gonna try and play this game as linearly on the main story path as it can be for a while. And then once I hit a level of safety. Now I am playing on very easy, and take note that I still have like half my health reduced. Almost half my health is reduced. So if I was playing on hard, maybe those bloatflies and those mantises and the geckos would have already killed me once. And I'm assuming the game is saving every time I enter a area and making autosaves. Enter and exit a building, but that may not even happen that often. It doesn't really feel like there's as many buildings as Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was massive places and locations. Here, it seems like it might be much, much smaller of a map this game may be something closer to more of a spin-off experience than I thought it would be. But it still has a lot of opportunities to surprise me also.
Let me see what you got. Yeah, these'll do just fine. Just fine. Alright now. We're gonna be making something folks on the trail call healing powder. Go on over to that campfire now. Give it a try.
So campfires are once again a workbench. And so if we have Brock flower and Xander root, we can make healing powder. And what do you do to do that? It's not the A button, it's the X button. Let's just quickly look and see. So there is a whole cooking mechanic also here, with also some cloned abilities.
Hey, that's not bad, see? All it takes to make a recipe is the right ingredients and the right know-how. Sometimes it won't be a campfire you need. Might need to do some work on your guns and ammo, maybe. Important thing to get is it's all the same idea. You just need to find the right place to set up shop. Workbench or reloading bench, whatever. Well, I hope that's enough to get you started. I'm heading back now. Hope I didn't miss anything good on the jukebox. Cheyenne would never forgive me. Hey, do me a favor. Trudy, she's the bartender up at the Prospector. Kind of the town mom. She likes to meet newcomers. She'd be cross with me if I didn't ask you to poke your head in and say hi.
So, okay. Here's again where I would like to say disarm. And I don't know how to disarm. I don't think there really is a button for that. And I'd like to run. Okay, holding X disarms. But how do we run? Yeah. If there is a run button on the Xbox controller, I cannot find it. We can go into third person perspective and we can see what we look like. Which, yeah, I guess that works. So there was a slight non-controversy, and frankly it's a non-controversy because it was basically a double fake troll, in that somebody took the picture of the human actress from the Fallout TV series and then animated very poorly so that she would have more clingy clothes and more pronounced buttocks. It's a non-controversy because almost certainly it was all made up by some advertisement firm and put on Reddit just to get people's attention, and you know, probably no real humans there at all. That being said, I haven't modified this game at all, and you can see in New Vegas that the animators and the 3D rigging has put some fairly tight jeans on this female model, and the clothes are sticking fairly tightly and showing off a fairly large buttocks, more than the human actors. The problem with the comparison, though, is one is an artistic intent of an animator who might be interested in showing off the human form, and the other is just visual imagery of an actual human being, and commenting on an actual human being's body is not really appropriate or helpful. We can't get to the point where we're demanding every single actor and actresses have even more butt lifts and face lifts and cheek implants and modifications of their bodies to suit everybody's specific individual desire. And yeah, it's not like the Fallout series really is all about having good-looking characters. They go out of their way to have fairly dirty-looking faced and dirty-looking, older, worn characters for a good reason, because that.
Nice. If you don't hand Ringo over soon, I'm going to get my friends and we're burning this town to the ground. Got it?
We'll keep that in mind. Now, if you're not gonna buy something, get out.
What the hell is your problem?
Joe Cobb.
What do you want? He's some trader who decided he'd rather shoot than pay the toll for being in our territory. He's hiding somewhere in town. Would serve these idiots right if me and my guys shot the place up after we got payback on Ringo. It is now. Me and the rest of the guys busted out of the NCR prison east of here and took over. Now we're calling the shots.
Interesting. So we got a new map marker.
None of your damn business. You ought to know better than to ask a man that kind of question.
Let's try a speech.
Robbed some people, burned some things, killed a few guys.
So every time you get a speech check, you also get XP. We're very close to leveling up here.
Same old shit that's been going on for years. The NCR and Legion is still
Perhaps
fighting
a little
over
too
Hoover Dam
much
for some
cussing in
reason.
this game. This really could be a fairly family-friendly game outside of the violence, if they got rid of the cussing.
Let me get out of town before we talk. Too many unfriendly ears around. I've run with some tough gangs, but I gotta admit, they all got nothing on the Legion. I hear they stick you up on poles and it takes a while to die. I ain't saying I'm afraid of them or nothing, but I'll be staying out of their way.
So you have the beginning of what is just a game.
New California Republic. Nothing new about it. Just a bunch of people with money and power pushing everyone else around. They've got troops all over the Mojave, but it's a big desert, so it's pretty easy to avoid them if you want. Never been there since the NCR's got troops all over.
Clearly all this
Must be
dialogues
pretty
points you to search out New Vegas, search out the Hoover Dam.
Yeah.
So the story continues.
Hey there.
And here was the lady we were supposed to talk to.
Well, you've been causing quite a stir. Glad I finally got to meet you. Welcome to the Prospector Saloon.
Let's talk about this argument, and then we'll wrap up for today.
Looks like our little town got itself dragged into the middle of something we don't want anything to do with. About a week ago, this trader, Ringo, comes into town. Survivor of an attack, he says. Bad men after him. Needs a place to hide. We figured he was just in shock, so we gave him a place to lie low. We didn't actually expect anyone to come after him. He's holed up at the abandoned gas station up the hill. Some of the others, like Sonny, will probably stand up for Ringo if he asks for help, which he hasn't. Personally, I hope he sneaks out of town one night and takes the powder gangers with him. Chain gangs, really. The NCR brought them in from California to work on the rail lines. Problem is, it turns out that giving convicts a bunch of dynamite and blasting powder isn't the best idea. It was a big escape not too long ago. Some of them stuck together so they could make trouble. That's what we're dealing with now.
Oh, so the NCR uses prisoners as labor. I'm not going to ask this question.
Alright. If you were able to get Ringo out of this mess, you'd have a decent reputation around Good Springs. I'd even set you up with a discount. Of course, helping Ringo would also make the powder gangers mad, and they've got a lot of friends out there.
So you have to make that moral choice. Do you want to be a bad guy and work with the powder gangers, or do you want to be a good guy? I'm almost certainly going to try to play as much of a good guy as possible. Although a lot of times in these games they don't make it obvious as to what the right choice is.
Don't know why you'd want to do a thing like that. Yep, you'd get on their good side, but people around here wouldn't appreciate it one bit. He's a convict, just without the chains. Said his name was Cobb. Powder gangers is what they call themselves. Plenty more like him out there.
Now, you don't just get XP for getting information in general, and so a lot of these dialogue choices are going to come down to, do you want more backstory? Which, it's pretty easy to take the backstory since it's voice acted. It's not like a visual novel where you just have to read everything. There is certainly a cheaper way to make a game like this where it all would be visual novel style with no voice acting, and that would become a nightmare very quickly. And you do see books in Skyrim where it goes down that path where you have several pages of just text to read.
Not much, other than there are a bunch of freeloaders who expected a few rounds on the house. I was able to get them to pay up, though. Of course, one of the great cons did knock my radio to the floor by accident, and it hasn't been working since. They were having some kind of argument about it, but the guy in the checkered coat kept shushing them. Sounded like they came in from the north through Quarry Junction. If that's the case, I can't say I blame them for not wanting to go back. That whole area is overrun with the kind of critters that just get mad if you shoot them. Merchants avoid that whole stretch of I-15 like it's radioactive, which it could be for all I know. I didn't hear exactly, but the leader was talking about the strip. Fellow wants to get there and avoid the 15, he'd have to go east. Take Highway 93 up.
If you have familiarity with these highways, I imagine you would probably recognize those highways.
I know that thing as much as anyone else around here. It mostly keeps to itself, which is just fine by me.
There's a lot of dialogue here.
Other than rolling around once in a while, it doesn't do anything useful as far as I can tell. I don't know why it took an interest in you, but I'd be careful. It's never helped anyone before. It was here when I took over the saloon 7 years ago. Some people have said its owner lived here, but no one knows who it was. It acts friendly enough, but I don't trust that whole cheerful cowboy act. I find it all very creepy. Fine by me. Mostly traders looking to buy bighorn or meat and hides. The traders are the main reason
Talking every now and then does give you map locations.
Most travelers heading south on the I-15 just push on towards Prim, unless they're in desperate need of supplies.
It's really helpful to have your map marked out as you walk into locations. Otherwise, there is, if this game is anything like Fallout 3, there's too high of a chance that you would miss an entire settlement just staying on the road.
There's always something interesting going on, but the biggest news has to be the coming dust-up between the NCR and the Legion over the dam. I'm pretty sure the NCR wants to hold on to the dam because it's one of the few places around that can make electricity. The Legion are a bunch of savages, though. No idea why they'd want the dam. Probably plan on destroying it or something. Slavers, killers, and all other kinds of trouble. They dress up like Roman soldiers, so there's no mistaking it when you see them. The rumor is that the Legion is far larger than the NCR lets on, and that it's been due to luck that the Legion hasn't overrun the territory.
Yeah, I kind of wish some of these factions were a bit more neutral at the beginning. At the end of Fallout 3, a lot of the characters did feel like, a lot of the different factions did feel more balanced, as in no one faction was perfect or good or bad, but there still were some fairly obviously bad factions in Fallout 3, and at the beginning here we can pretty well see we're supposed to side with the NCR and not side with Caesar, if we're going to side with anybody.
The New California Republic's got the most power in Nevada. Money, troops, you name it. They do what they can to keep things safe in the region. But if you ask me, they're trying to do too much. They're spread too thin.
So we've done everything other than fix the radio. Let's see if our science is high enough.
Sure, the outside looks okay, but I think something broke on the inside. There'd be caps in it for you. I do like to hear what's going on in the world. And that Mr. New Vegas seems like such a gentleman.
And
got a special discount for you after what you done for us.
let's see. So what do we even need to buy? We'll buy, I guess, fixing things. But all of this is actually fairly expensive. Nuka-Colas. Maybe the move is to not buy anything at all. And maybe the move is not to sell anything at all.
Be careful out there.
Okay. So we made it to level 2 in that conversation, and this is a great point to end here. How many points do we have to upgrade? 14 points in our first level. What? We won a speech check. We needed a boost on science. Over 25 at least. Getting to 40 probably makes some sense. Getting to 40 probably makes some sense there. 25 on medicine probably makes some sense. 25 on lockpicking, maybe? Or 40 on speech. Yeah, just kind of bump things up to the round numbers, and that's more than likely what you want to do. Don't want to do energy weapons, don't want to do explosives. It does seem like effectiveness on guns could be useful. And it definitely does show too that you're going to use with guns regardless of how high your speech is. There's just no way around it. You're going to be shooting at least insects. So let's do that. Now we have several new perks we can pick from. Black Widow requires level 2. In combat you do 10% damage against male opponents, which they try to balance the game out, I think. Or I think they did this in Fallout 3, so I assume it's the same here. Where if you're playing as a female character, you're still going to see about 50% female, 50% male enemies. It's not a case where if you pick a female character, then you see 90% male character enemies. This also gives you dialogue options. Of course, this was not in Fallout 3. In combat, you could do 10% damage against female opponents, and so you could be a lesbian, basically. Intensive training to put 1 point into your special attributes. This is one that you could do multiple times, but I'm not sure when it would be the right time to do that. Skill magazines last 3 times as long, but that's not that long. And then Swift Learner perk, you gain an additional 10% experience points, which would be nice if there wasn't a cap, but because there's a cap, it's actually wasteful to do that. Now, there are some other perks here that it looks like we just don't have the right stats for. So, junk rounds. Interesting. Light armor. Friend of the night. Poe. I'm not going to read all this out loud. This is too much text. Rapid reload might be helpful. Not going down the cannibal path. Even in Fallout 3, it felt like the cannibal path was just a weird choice that I don't think too many people would happen. Let's see. Level 4 intelligence 4. With this, you gain double bonus from reading magazines and 1 additional point from all skill books. So you definitely should not read any skill books at all, which are apparently different from skill magazines. Now I'm figuring out the difference. Don't read a single skill book until you get comprehension, and that is assuming that there isn't a comprehension 2. Okay. Educated is also something we're going to want at level 4. So there is an argument here to not even use the perk and just sit on it for a while. And just get comprehension and educated. And it definitely feels like some of these stats are fairly high requirements. So intelligence 4, I'm pretty sure we have intelligence 4. And I thought that it might be a case that your character ages 1 year every time you level up, but if it really does work that way and your physical appearance ages 1 year every time you level up, then the timeline of your character aging is completely disconnected with the wait time function, where you can change the day-night cycle in the game. Bloody Mess is an odd perk because you get this cinematic to kind of waste your time and is gory, but it does 5 extra % of damage with all weapons, so it's a decent one to consider. Find considerably more bottle caps and containers than you normally would. I'm not wonder if that would be worth it. Let's see. The fact that they show you all these perks helps you. This episode is going to be nearly 2 hours long. Yeah, I think we probably will have 2-hour episodes. Try and keep them shorter than that. Seems like you might be sleeping at campfires more often than I thought. I'm not sure that there really is a fast travel system in the game. A lot of these features straight up copied from Fallout 3, so no big difference on a lot of it. Yeah, Here and Now is a great example of something you wouldn't want to waste a perk just to level up one more time when there's a max level. Misfortune. She, I guess, is like the stranger perk. She'll show up and shoot people. But you also have the mysterious stranger perk. Yeah, now really is the time to just plan out the rest of your gameplay. what will be important. Probably spending points to increase your hauling ability. It's not going to be that helpful. A lot of these perks also don't give you anything special other than just adding to your percentages. So something that would just give you 50% more damage may not be as fun as something that would change the whole experience. Man, this list is way too long though. And one of the things I do think they did in Fallout 4 is they made a much more readable graph around that. And I imagine Action Girl is Action Boy if you were playing as male character. These tag abilities might be useful. Undoubtedly there is a walkthrough to tell you exactly what to do. Like, every location being revealed is probably not worth it. It's just way too many. A lot of these are also near end level quest perks, so you really don't have to consider them too much other than to just know what's ahead of you. Yeah, we're at to level 30, and I imagine level 30 was the max level originally. And so I imagine if you see anything above level 30, these would be DLC perks. And yeah, it's a big jump here. It goes from 30 to 36, which would require 2 DLCs, because each DLC gave you 5 extra levels in 40. And I imagine these late level 50 abilities just reset your karma, so you could make you a good guy after playing badly. Karma being reset is the default one. So the decision here is, do we take something like this now, or this? Or take a skill point now in intelligence so we learn things even faster? Or do we just skip it? See, I don't know why this... Yeah. Because next time we level up, we could take maybe this perk or this perk. Yeah, I guess the question is, what is in between comprehension and education that we would skip one? Cannibal we'll skip, and so then we can take 2 things from this point to the top. What would be the 2 things I would want? This one's probably one I would want. Luck 6, repair 45. You have to remember to go for that. And then that lasting 3 times as long is not that helpful. I think we go with this one. Make a decision. Okay. Before we forget, let's see. As far as repair, yeah, next time we need to bump that up to 45. So we have an item. Can we repair the item? As far as a radio goes. From this spot. Should be something that says broken radio or radio. Does this have weight? No. Don't see anything here labeled radio. So am I supposed to just go over here and look at the actual physical radio? Oh, yes. Fix the radio. And we'll talk to her.
Feeling thirsty? I can take care of that. Yeah, I heard it turn right back on after you got done tinkering with it. Here's some caps for the work.
Let's see, barter 20.
Not at all. I'm never sure how much is normally charged for this sort of thing. Here's some additional caps. That should be enough. Now, how about spending some of those caps in the saloon?
And so doing that, I just got 25
Be
experience.
careful out there.
Okay. So I'm gonna want to go over there and repair some stuff and see if I can repair stuff. And so that's what I'm gonna do next recording. And as far as the quest goes, I guess we are trying to figure out Ringo's situation. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, and keep on watching. Thanks.